In the heart of the Pacific Ocean, shrouded in fog and whispered about only in hushed tones, lies the enigmatic island of Thalassor. Ancient mariners spoke of this forbidden land with a mix of reverence and fear, claiming it to be a place where the boundary between the natural and the supernatural blurred dangerously thin. It was a place of dark lore and lost civilizations, swallowed by time and the relentless sea. Dr. Alaric Thorne, a renowned marine biologist with an insatiable curiosity for the ocean's most enigmatic secrets, had spent years hearing the legends of Thalassor. Tales of an ancient civilization, of dark rituals and otherworldly echoes, had haunted his dreams and fueled his obsession. Determined to uncover the truth, Dr. Thorne assembled a team of experts and set sail aboard the research vessel Erebus, embarking on a journey that would take them to the edge of sanity and beyond. The journey to Thalassor was fraught with peril, as if the ocean itself conspired to keep them away. Yet, driven by a thirst for knowledge and a resolve bordering on madness, Dr. Thorne pressed on. When they finally reached the fog-shrouded island, they were greeted by an eerie silence and an oppressive atmosphere that seemed to breathe with malevolent intent. What awaited them in the depths of Thalassor was beyond their wildest imaginations, a descent into darkness that would test their minds, their courage, and their very souls. As they delved deeper into the island's ancient ruins, they would uncover secrets best left buried and awaken forces that had slumbered for millennia. Echoes from the Abyss, a descent into madness, is a tale of discovery and horror, where the pursuit of knowledge leads to the brink of insanity and the thin veil between reality and nightmare is torn asunder. Join Dr. Thorne and his team as they confront the malevolent echoes of a forgotten past and struggle to survive the abyss that threatens to consume them all. In the heart of the Pacific Ocean lies an enigmatic island, shrouded in perpetual fog and whispered about only in hushed tones by the few mariners who dare acknowledge its existence. This island, known to the ancient seafarers as Thalassor, was a place of dark lore, a forbidden land where the boundary between the natural and the supernatural blurred into a terrifyingly thin line. Dr. Alaric Thorne, a renowned marine biologist with a penchant for unraveling the ocean's most enigmatic secrets, had heard the legends of Thalassor throughout his career. The stories spoke of an ancient civilization, lost to time and swallowed by the ocean, whose remnants still echoed within the island's mysterious depths. Driven by a thirst for knowledge and a curiosity bordering on obsession, Dr. Thorne assembled a team of experts and set sail aboard the research vessel Erebus. The journey to Thalassor was fraught with peril. The ocean seemed to rebel against their intrusion, with waves crashing violently against the hull and storms appearing out of nowhere. But Dr. Thorne's determination was unyielding, his eyes gleaming with a fervor that matched the tempestuous sea. After weeks of battling the elements, the fog-shrouded silhouette of Thalassor finally loomed on the horizon, a ghostly specter that sent chills down the spine of even the most seasoned sailors. As they approached the island, an eerie silence descended upon the crew. The air grew heavy, oppressive, and the sound of the ocean seemed to be swallowed by an unseen force. They anchored the Erebus in a sheltered cove and began their expedition. The dense jungle that covered the island was a tangled mass of twisted vines and gnarled trees, their bark etched with strange, ancient symbols. Dr. Thorne led the way, his compass spinning wildly as if confused by the island's magnetic anomalies. Deeper into the jungle they ventured, the path growing darker and more treacherous with each step. Strange, guttural sounds echoed through the trees, and shadows flitted at the edge of their vision, vanishing as quickly as they appeared. It was on the third day that they discovered the entrance to the underground ruins, an ancient stone archway covered in moss and carved with cryptic runes that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. The team descended into the darkness, their torches casting flickering shadows on the damp walls. The air grew colder, and a sense of foreboding settled over them. The passageway led to a vast underground chamber filled with the remnants of a once great civilization. Statues of forgotten deities stood guard, their eyes seeming to follow the intruders. Ancient murals depicted scenes of ritualistic ceremonies and ominous sacrifices, hinting at a dark history that had long been buried. In the center of the chamber stood a massive stone altar, upon which lay an intricately carved obsidian artifact, the Heart of Thalassor. Legend spoke of its power to connect the physical world with the abyssal realms beyond, a conduit for the spirits that lingered in the island's depths. Dr. Thorne's eyes widened with a mix of awe and dread as he approached the artifact, his hand trembling as he reached out to touch it. The moment his fingers brushed against the cold surface of the heart, a wave of darkness surged through him. Visions of ancient rituals, blood-soaked altars, and eldritch horrors flashed before his eyes. He could hear whispers, faint at first, but growing louder, more insistent. They spoke in a language he could not understand, yet their meaning was clear, an indication of madness and despair. Dr. Thorne staggered back, his mind reeling from the psychic onslaught. He looked around at his team, their faces etched with fear and confusion. The whispers had reached them too, and he could see the strain in their eyes, the cracks forming in their sanity. Desperation clawed at his thoughts. He needed to understand, to decipher the runes and find a way to quell the ancient evil that had awakened. Days turned into weeks as Dr. Thorne and his team delved deeper into the island's secrets. They uncovered more artifacts, each one more sinister than the last, and the whispers grew louder, more maddening. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by fevered visions and nightmarish apparitions. The boundaries between reality and delusion blurred, and paranoia seeped into their minds like a poison. There were no objections, only a grim acceptance of their fate. Together, they prepared the ritual site, marking the ground with runes and symbols that glowed faintly in the torchlight. As the final preparations were made, Dr. Thorne stood before the altar, the Heart of Thalassor clutched in his hands. The whispers had reached a crescendo, a cacophony of voices that threatened to shatter his mind. He began the incantation, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. The ground trembled, and a chill wind swept through the chamber as if the very island was reacting to his words. The darkness that had plagued them coalesced into a swirling vortex above the altar, tendrils of shadow reaching out like grasping hands. Dr. Thorne felt the pull of the abyss, a cold, unrelenting force that sought to consume him. He continued the incantation, his voice rising above the din, and placed the Heart of Thalassor on the altar. With a final, desperate plea, he offered himself to the darkness, willing his soul to be the sacrifice that would save them all. In that moment, the vortex surged forward, engulfing Dr. Thorne in a maelstrom of shadow and whispers. His body convulsed, and a searing pain lanced through his mind as the abyssal forces claimed him. The chamber was filled with a blinding light, and a deafening silence followed, as if the very air had been sucked from the room. When the light faded, the whispers were gone, replaced by an eerie stillness. The remaining survivors looked around in stunned silence, their minds slowly clearing from the madness that had gripped them. The Heart of Thalassor lay shattered on the altar, its dark power finally broken. Dr. Thorne was gone, his sacrifice having sealed the abyssal gateway and saved his team from a fate worse than death. The island of Thalassor, once a place of dark legend, was now a silent tomb, its secrets buried once more. The survivors returned to the Erebus, their minds scarred but their spirits unbroken, carrying within the tale of a man who faced the abyss and gave everything to save his comrades. As the Erebus sailed away from the island, the fog began to lift, and the ocean returned to its tranquil state. The story of Thalassor would live on, a testament to the thin line between curiosity and madness, and the echoes of the abyss that lingered in the shadows. The journey back to the mainland was somber, the survivors haunted by the events on Thalassor. Dr. Thorne's sacrifice weighed heavily on them, a constant reminder of the thin veil between the known world and the abyssal horrors that lurked just beyond. Each night, the survivors huddled together, sharing stories of the man who had led them into the heart of darkness and ultimately saved them. As they docked at the harbor, the crew disbanded, each person trying to resume their normal lives, though their experiences on Thalassor left indelible marks on their souls. They avoided the press, refusing to talk about the island and its dark secrets, each of them struggling to piece their lives back together in silence. Dr. Thorne's notes, journals, and collected artifacts were handed over to the university he had worked for, a treasure trove of cryptic symbols, sketches, and fragmented translations that hinted at the island's mysteries. Scholars and researchers pored over the material, attempting to decipher the enigmatic language and understand the nature of the abyssal forces they described. Yet, as brilliant as these minds were, the deeper they delved, the more elusive the answers became. The whispers seemed to follow the pages, driving more than one researcher to the brink of madness. Among those researchers was Dr. Elizabeth Harding, a former colleague of Dr. Thorne and an expert in ancient languages. Intrigued by the mystery and driven by a sense of unfinished business, Dr. Harding dedicated herself to unraveling the secrets of Thalassor. She spent countless hours locked away in her study, her mind consumed by the cryptic symbols and the faint whispers that seemed to echo from the pages. One evening, as the storm raged outside her window, Dr. Harding made a breakthrough. The symbols, she realized, were not just a language but a series of incantations and protective spells designed to keep the abyssal forces at bay. As she translated the final passage, a sense of dread washed over her. The ritual that Dr. Thorne had performed was incomplete, a temporary seal that would only hold for so long. The true incantation required an even greater sacrifice, one that could only be made by a descendant of the original inhabitants of Thalassor. Determined to find the truth, Dr. Harding set out to trace the lineage of the ancient civilization. Her research led her to the remote corners of the world, to hidden libraries and forgotten tombs, each clue bringing her closer to the descendants of Thalassor. It was in a small village on the coast of Greece that she found the last living heir, a young woman named Sophia, whose bloodline traced back to the ancient guardians of the abyss. Sophia, initially skeptical of the wild tales Dr. Harding spun, was eventually convinced by the weight of evidence and the urgency in the researcher's eyes. The whispers had begun to plague Sophia's dreams, echoing the same dark warnings that Dr. Thorne had faced. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Sophia agreed to accompany Dr. Harding back to Thalassor, the place where the nightmare had begun and where it had to end. They chartered a vessel, the Eerie, and set sail for the cursed island. The journey was eerily reminiscent of the one Dr. Thorne had undertaken, with storms and treacherous waters threatening to derail their mission. But Sophia's presence seemed to calm the sea, her connection to the ancient guardians lending them a measure of protection. As they approached Thalassor, the familiar fog engulfed the island, and the oppressive silence returned. The ruins greeted them with an air of familiarity and menace. Dr. Harding led Sophia through the jungle, retracing the steps Dr. Thorne had documented in his journals. They reached the underground chamber, now eerily silent and devoid of the malevolent presence that had once filled it. In the center of the chamber, the shattered remnants of the heart of Thalassor lay scattered, a testament to Dr. Thorne's sacrifice. Sophia approached the altar, her eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and determination. Dr. Harding began the incantation, her voice steady despite the mounting tension. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to dance in the torchlight, as if anticipating the ritual. Sophia joined in, her voice melding with Dr. Harding's in a haunting harmony. The ground trembled once more, and the vortex of darkness began to form above the altar. But this time, Sophia stepped forward, her presence anchoring the ritual and providing the strength needed to complete the incantation. She raised a ceremonial dagger, her eyes meeting Dr. Harding's in a silent exchange of understanding and resolve. With a swift, decisive motion, Sophia plunged the dagger into her palm, her blood spilling onto the altar. The vortex surged, the shadows recoiling as if in pain. Sophia's voice rose above the din, her words echoing with an ancient power. The darkness writhed and twisted, its tendrils reaching out in a final, desperate attempt to escape. But Sophia stood firm, her voice unwavering. The shadows were drawn back into the abyss, the whispers fading into nothingness. With a final incantation, the gateway was sealed, the abyssal forces banished once and for all. The chamber fell silent, the oppressive weight lifting from the air. Dr. Harding rushed to Sophia's side, her heart pounding with fear and relief. Sophia's strength had held, but the cost was evident in her pale face and trembling hands. Together, they exited the chamber, the island's malevolent presence now a distant memory. As they sailed away from Thalassor, the fog lifted, and the sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden light over the ocean. The journey had been harrowing, but the threat was finally over. The island of Thalassor returned to the realm of legend, its dark secrets buried beneath the waves. Dr. Harding and Sophia carried with them the knowledge of the abyss, a reminder of the courage and sacrifice it took to confront the darkness and emerge victorious. Yet, in the quiet moments, when the wind whispered through the trees and the shadows danced in the firelight, they could still hear faint echoes from the abyss, a reminder of the thin veil that separated their world from the horrors beyond. And so, their story became one of caution and bravery, a testament to the enduring spirit of those who dared to face the darkness and reclaim the light. As the Eerie glided across the calm waters, Dr. Harding and Sophia reflected on their harrowing ordeal. The weight of their victory was tempered by the memories of those who had been lost along the way. Dr. Thorne's sacrifice loomed large in their minds, a poignant reminder of the cost of knowledge and the bravery required to face the unknown. Returning to the mainland, they were greeted with both skepticism and awe. Dr. Harding's colleagues and the academic community were eager to hear about their findings, though many were skeptical of the supernatural elements of their tale. Nevertheless, the artifacts and notes they brought back from Thalassor provided ample material for study and lent credence to their story. Sophia, now a reluctant heroine, found herself thrust into a world of academia and media attention. She struggled with the notoriety, finding solace only in the quiet moments when she could feel the connection to her ancestors and the ancient guardians of Thalassor. Dr. Harding, recognizing the toll it was taking on her, vowed to protect Sophia's privacy and help her navigate this new chapter of her life. Months passed, and life gradually began to return to a semblance of normalcy. Dr. Harding continued her research, delving deeper into the ancient texts and uncovering more about the lost civilization of Thalassor. She published her findings, carefully omitting the more fantastical elements, focusing instead on the historical and linguistic significance of the artifacts they had recovered. Sophia, meanwhile, chose a quieter path. She moved to a small coastal village, far from the prying eyes of the media and the academic world. There, she found peace in the rhythms of the sea, her connection to her ancestors a source of comfort and strength. She became a local legend, the woman who had faced the abyss and lived to tell the tale, though she rarely spoke of her experiences. Dr. Harding visited Sophia often, their bond forged in the crucible of their shared ordeal. They spent long hours walking along the shore, discussing their theories and marveling at the mysteries of the ancient world. They knew that the darkness they had confronted was not vanquished forever, but they took solace in the knowledge that they had done their part to keep it at bay. In time, the story of Thalassor faded into the annals of history, a legend whispered among scholars and seafarers alike. The island remained shrouded in mystery, its secrets buried beneath the waves. But those who knew the truth carried with them the memory of the thin veil that separated their world from the abyss and the echoes that lingered in the shadows. And so, the tale of Thalassor became one of bravery, sacrifice, and the enduring human spirit. Dr. Thorne's legacy lived on in the hearts and minds of those who had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, a reminder that even in the face of the unknown, courage and determination could light the way. As the years passed, Dr. Harding and Sophia continued their quiet lives, forever bound by the shared knowledge of what lay beneath the surface of the world they knew. They remained vigilant, knowing that the echoes from the abyss would never be truly silenced, but confident that, together, they could face whatever darkness might come their way.